Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. Thanks for joining in. I am not going to tie a fly for you this video. This is going to be more of an educational slant. I'm going to discuss the genesis, the history of the two main types of dry flies that we fish. The Catskill type, or the common type, upwing type of dry fly, and the parachute type, and try to help you determine when is the best time to fish one or the other. What is the best type of water to fish these in? I'm going to touch on fish vision a little bit to help you understand how fish see these flies. So I'm going to start off with we call it the Catskill style, although that's an Americanization. The very first dry flies were actually tied in Britain by a man by the name of Halford, and he codified what a dry fly is supposed to look like. This was in the 1870s. Of course, people have been trying to make flies that floated for many years before then, but he's the one that kind of put it all together, wrote some books on it, etc. Now, something you have to remember is this fly was developed for southern England type of water, which is all chalk stream, spring creek water. Lots of vegetation, very smooth flows, very little riffle except for wind, clear water. That's how this fly was developed, to fish in those type of conditions. Just about all of our American fly fishing and fly tying heritage has come from England. An American by the name of Theodore Gordon communicated with Halford in the 1890s. Halford sent him a dozen flies. Theodore changed them a little bit simply because our mayflies were smaller. The mayflies that they were imitating in England was a burrowing type of mayfly, so it was a very big mayfly. So Theodore Gordon changed the size of it a little bit. He also was very, very big on wood duck flank. Wood duck flank for both the wings and the tail. And he codified basically the American style of dry fly tying. He lived in the Catskill area, which is a part of the Adirondacks in New York State. And so now we call this the Catskill style. It's basically an upwing fly with hackle wrapped around the hook itself. Again, in the eastern U.S., he was fishing a lot of clear spring creek type of water, not a lot of riffle on it. When you come to the rest of the United States, also in northern Britain, Scotland, England, they have freestone rivers like we have here. Boisterous, lots of riffle, lots of drop in elevation. These flies don't tend to float that well on that type of water simply because they're only supported by the hackle tips that touch the water, which really aren't that many, and by the tail itself. If these break through the surface film, then it does not give you the same presentation as if they were on flat, calm water. The parachute fly, I'm not sure the exact history. I know people have been tying parachute type flies for a very long time. In 1931, an American by the name of William Bush actually patented a fly hook that had a post on it to tie the parachute on. We've moved on since then. We found out there's a lot of different materials that you can use for the post on a parachute type of fly. Now the difference is in how these flies sit in the water. Like I said, this fly tends to sit high up on its hackles. The parachute fly, the hackle is wrapped horizontally around the post, so the fly sits deeper in the water. The body actually sits in the water, and that's a very important distinction. We commonly think of our flies, our fly tying, or fly fishing in our atmosphere, our air atmosphere, which is totally different than water. How fish see flies is very much different than how we see them. It's because of refraction. Refraction simply is the bending of light rays. Because water is denser than air, the light rays slow down and they're bent at an included angle of about 97 degrees. So for example, I'll use this flashlight as an illustration. Imagine this is the surface of the water. Imagine that this is the surface of the water and the fish is underneath. This cone of vision, about 97 degrees, is what the fish can see from his eyes. Now they have two eyes, obviously, so they have binocular vision on each side. When they bring their eyes together in front, they have binocular vision like we do, which allows very fine focus. But here's something you need to understand. The deeper in the water the fish is, the wider that cone is, and the bigger the area it can see. As it approaches the surface to take a dry fly, that gets smaller and smaller and smaller, so that when it's about underneath the fly, it has about 1.5 inches field of view. It is blind all the way around that. One of the reasons why they're hesitant to come to the surface is because the predators are up there, and secondly, they have a very limited field of view once they get up there. The difference is with a parachute fly, the body of the fly is actually in the water. When they're looking up to the air, their vision is restricted just to that cone. It's hard to think of how fish see, but basically it's a window in a mirror. This cone of vision is what they see from. The rest of the undersurface of the water is a mirror that reflects the bottom. This again is in calm, still water. So any part of the fly that's actually in the water itself is very easy to see. Any portion of the fly that's underwater is very easy to see. Now when we talk about our western rivers, and most of the rivers that I fish, we're not fishing flat, calm, still water. We're fishing water that's either riffled by wind or riffled by waves themselves. All bets are off. Those waves act like a bunch of mirrors. Light is reflected, refracted. It's just a mosaic of colors and light. The only way a fish can see something is it's in the water itself, either a wet fly, a nymph, or something like a parachute fly where the body of the fly is in the water. So that's the difference there between the two types of flies and the type of water that you fish them in. This type of fly, the dry fly, you'll often hear comments about how the fly looks on the surface. This is a picture taken in a slant tank, but it basically tells you that from underwater, every little hackle point, everything that sits on the meniscus itself causes a little bright spot of light. It actually acts like prisms. And the people who are the Catskill field of dry flies say that, you know, this is how the fish sees the fly. It can see it farther off because of this. That's all true as long as the water is calm. If the water is riffled, again, that's not the case. So typically I fish mostly a parachute style dry fly simply because of the type of water that I fish. If I fished more spring creeks, more calm, still water, you could fish either fly effectively. I like the parachute fly because I know the fish can see the body. Also, I can vary the color of the post for my visibility, which is a benefit for myself and older eyes. So anyway, that's the skinny on the two types of dry flies. I hope that's helped you a little bit in selecting your fly for the type of water that you fish. They're both equally easy to tie. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you next time.